First of all, I would like to say thank you for inviting me and being part of this conversation. I think this is a very important topic that is being discussed, and my hope and intention today is that I would be able to share with you some inputs that can feed into your discussions later. I noted that part of your discussion later in the day is to talk about what are the competencies that are required from our young graduates as they enter the workforce. And today, my topic will really be focused on understanding what are the changes that are happening in the workplace, what are the requirements that employers like our company, organizations, private companies are looking for from the new entrants to the labor market. First of all, I'd like to thank the team from 𝗙𝗂𝘂 for helping me on the polling activity that we just had. And I was watching the answers as the timer was ticking, and I was looking at the way some of our participants today kept on changing their answers. It was actually very interesting. Um, I thought I should just summarize the results because this is going to be the jump off point for our discussion today. 90% of you agreed or say or believe that the global pandemic was the key driver of the changes that we are seeing in the workplace today. Okay, so we'll address that later. Is it truly the COVID-19 or the global pandemic that are creating the changes in the workplace? 52% of you feel confident today, as we speak, about the future readiness of your graduates. So I could see some of you kept on changing, not sure, no to yes, to again not sure, and being a no. So that was very I would say interesting. 52%, only half of the participants today really feel confident about the readiness of your graduates, and then 43%. I think I captured it correctly. 43% have a clear understanding of what a future ready graduate looks like. So I'm going to share with you what exactly employers like our company and other organizations, similar organizations, are looking for from the new graduates for us to be able to say they are worthy of getting a job. But I'm also going to tell you what future ready means to us. It's not just about getting a job and offering a job. Organizations more and more are transitioning into offering careers to the new graduates who are entering the labor market. So what does that mean? When you say a future ready graduate is a career ready talent, okay? So just to focus on our two major objectives for the day. So I'm going to talk about the changes in the workplace. And I'm happy to see that earlier in the summary that was shared with all of you, you have started talking about it. But more importantly, I'd like to focus on what are the implications of the changes that are happening in the workplace. Did it happen only last year when we saw the pandemic? Or was it already happening even before COVID-19 happened? At the same time, I'd like to be able to delve into a discussion on what are the opportunities to be able to develop future-ready workforce. I talked about not offering jobs, but instead, let's take a look at careers instead of talking jobs. And what are we really looking for when we are saying organizations are offering careers? Okay, so it's more long-term rather than looking at it from a very short term horizon. Okay. I mentioned to the team from 𝗙𝗂𝘂𝘂 that I only have a few slides. Okay. So I am going to be switching from side to side because I have two screens in front of me where I have my notes. So I hope you don't get distracted. I will be spending more or less 30 to 35 minutes talking about my deck. Let me finish it, and then maybe afterwards we can have a conversation. So wherever you are, grab your cup of tea, grab your cup of coffee, and then just take down notes, and then we'll address your questions in the conversation part. Okay, so we'll have conversation rather than me having a straight lecture, because that's how we do sessions now in the workplace, having more conversations. Okay, so why are we talking about this? Why is this a very contemporary topic that needs to be discussed? When I was offered that opportunity to speak with you, I said yes right away because I feel so passionate about anything that relates to talent, especially the young talents, the early talents. Um, I was reading before this conference, well, before this session, I was reading the ILO. I hope you can see it. I'm showing it. If you have the chance to grab a copy of the executive summary of the International Labor Organization, they came up with an executive summary where they spoke about what are the global employment trends for youth in 2020. So this was written last year. So I thought I should call out first because it also connects with the big why of why we need to talk about this topic. And the key takeaways, I'd like to just quickly mention it. The ILO was saying that they see a continuing decline, a continuing decrease in the young people's engagement in the labor market. So very interestingly, they spoke about the limited work experience, the limited skills that they're seeing from the young people who are entering the job market. Okay, so they are not able to find jobs right away as they enter the labor market. And that's what's causing, one of the reasons, that's what's causing the decline in young people's engagement in the labor market. So another thing that I would like to mention here is that indeed, technology has disrupted the labor market, and young people, they're finding in their studies that the young people are scared of technology. However, let me tell you, while technology has indeed disrupted the labor market, it has destroyed some of the jobs which are overtaken by AI, robotics, we'll talk about that, but it is also creating opportunities. And the question now is, what are the jobs that are being created in organizations today? I'll talk about that. And should our young workforce be scared? And how would you contribute to making them ready for that scenario? They also spoke about the imbalance in the supply and demand in the labor market. There's a lot of supply of young graduates in the labor market today. However, the demand for them is also decreasing because of the lack of highly skilled and capable talents that are entering the market today. So we're going to talk about that. And the ILO also emphasized the need to come up with a more integrated approach to strategy that involves multi-sectors. And I think I'm a believer that this should be discussed not only by educational institutions, the academia, the employers like us, not only by the government, the policy makers, but also more and more, I think we need to start involving the voice of our young workforce, involve them in that discussion so that they can be part of that strategy making that involves their future anyway. I think these are important call outs, which I would like to connect to the big why. So the young workforce, the graduates that you are producing from your institutions are the drivers of our future, okay, of the future of the economy. They're very important to creating socio-economic progress all over, okay? And we cannot underestimate the importance of the young workforce in the labor market. So we need them to succeed. All right, so we need to make sure that to increase their readiness as they enter the labor market. But what would be your big contribution to ensuring that we increase their employment ability while we are also creating more employment opportunities from where we are? All right, so now I'm going to maybe talk about the poll results, which we saw earlier. So the one of the questions asked in the poll was it the global pandemic that has driven the changes that we are seeing in the workplace today? So what was the world of work prior and during the pandemic? And maybe we can also discuss what are we seeing after this pandemic is over, if it will be over soon. And it still continues as we speak right now. Okay, so I would like to tell you that it was not COVID-19, it was not the pandemic that has changed the world of work. changes were already happening even before the global pandemic happened. So I would say that it has only accelerated, okay, the need for us to relook at the requirements, the competencies that we were looking for from our talents and even from the young people who are entering the workforce. Okay, so I would like to be able to talk about the changes that we already saw even before the pandemic. So I'm sure prior to COVID-19, you've already heard of these words: big data, AI, robotics. You are already being, aware of the business and process integration that were happening in companies. You probably were hearing a lot about the changing consumer habits. Probably you've heard about the green and clean lifestyles. All of these were changing what's happening in the organization, and we're also forcing us to look at what do we need from the young talents that are entering the market. So what was the first driver of change that we saw even before the pandemic? The digital economy, right? So this was the biggest driver of change. So the world was already moving from automation, okay, from introduction of the big data, from transitioning into the traditional ways of selling, the traditional ways of operating within the business, into a more digital system. So the digitization plus the digitalization, and these are two different things, okay, were driving the businesses to look at their ways of operating differently. This was what was transforming the business, and it was affecting not only one area, one aspect of the business, but more and more we saw that it was actually influencing the changes in almost all aspects of our business. So it was impacting sales, marketing, R&D, etc. So the entire business has to change, and that required new sets of skills. Okay? So another change that we saw was that there were more and more agile organizations that were being created in businesses. So I'll talk about four aspects of what agile organization is all about. The way we look at the business models has changed even pandemic happened. We were used to operating the business in a very linear way, and we call it the very silo way, where you have to start by conceptualizing your product. For example, in our business, in the seed business, so breeders were discussing what would be the new variant of the crop that we need to sell in the market. So they focus on developing, conceptualizing the new variant without understanding what's going to be the implication to supply chain, to the commercial team, to the traders, the sellers, and ultimately the consumers. So the world has changed in the sense that when we look at the business models, even before pandemic, we're talking about the circular business models. It's an ecosystem in the business where you look at the implications of what you're doing from different aspects. Okay, so no longer were we operating in a very linear business model. So we needed people to enter the organization who can see the world from that circular view, who are able to operate in a business model where you are not working from a linear model, but are able to understand what's happening all around you. And we're going to talk about what skill sets are those. In an agile organization, what we saw is that there is no longer more and more people, the organization is veering away from the traditional organizational setup where you have hierarchies, okay? And people were working working with only one, for example, direct manager that's providing you your direction. But the organizations have changed their designs. We have become much more flexible. We work in a very complex matrix organization structure where, from one point to another point, you might be reporting to different managers, to different bosses, and you are part of different teams. So what kind of people will be able to operate effectively in that kind of environment where changes are happening day by day. And you need to be very flexible. You need to be very adaptable in that situation. So what kind of competencies will you require to be able to operate in an agile organization? Okay, so the third aspect of that agile organization is that more and more, even before global pandemic happened, is that people were working on projects, team-based projects, team-led projects. So note, this is not leader-led, but team-led projects versus working on individual tasks. Okay, so again, we were also understanding we were closely observing what kind of capabilities will you require from people to be able to comfortably work in team-based projects. Yeah, what soft skills do you need? The technical skills are obviously a given, right? For most people, they bring with them their functional technical skills, expertise. But there are soft skills that will be required to be able to operate in that kind of environment where you're working with different people, multicultural, multinational, and diverse working styles. So how are you able to contribute and being comfortable in that kind of a situation? Lastly, in an agile environment, in agile organizations, speed is what is the name of the game. We live for speed. We have to be able to work fast, but of course not compromising the quality of what you're doing, but be able to know that what you are working on today might not anymore be relevant tomorrow. So that's how fast the agile organizations are, and it's because it's responding, it's our response to what's happening also outside. Okay, so let me move on now to the next third driver. This is more relevant for what we saw in 2020, the shift to high-skilled jobs. But even before that, there was already the need to create jobs that are requiring higher capabilities. So what do we mean by that? McKinsey, which is I'm sure you are familiar with McKinsey, a large consulting group, as early as 2 years ago, already said that 25% of the workers may need to switch occupations. Note that this was happening even before pandemic. Okay, so there are more jobs, there are more occupations now that are being created that require higher levels of skill set. Especially because AI, robotics were already happening, the digitalization was already happening. The lower paying jobs, the lower based occupations are being I would say replaced by technology. Okay, and this is probably what the ILO was talking about, where young people are so scared about technology because technology can already overtake them, right? But actually, it is also creating an opportunity for our young people to focus on higher sets of skills, higher capabilities. And so the question is, how do you make the academia prepare our young graduates to be ready for the higher level of capabilities they're looking for? When we look at offering opportunities, job opportunities to the young talents, we are looking for jobs that require higher analytical skills, okay, higher critical thinking skills, higher abilities to be able to see what's beyond, okay, the foresight. We were looking for their potential to become leaders, because the organizations right now have also transitioned from just merely offering jobs to actually offering careers. When we look at hiring now, we look at the capability and the potential of people to be broadened, to be expanded, to be grown, because there's a high cost related to hiring, training, retraining. So organizations today, companies today are looking at, once you hire, once you invest on a young graduate, are you able to retain them? Are you able to engage them? And are you able to really stretch them, right? Leverage the potential that they have. because you would like to be able to grow them and develop them, but look at their capability to do more rather than just being able to do less and very limited sets of activities or tasks in an organization. Now, let me move on to the next one, which is the hybrid workplace, which is another thing that we saw changing the environment, the organizations because of the pandemic. So we all know this already. I think this is no longer novelty. Virtual and remote working is here to stay. Again, that also requires sets of skills that probably were not important, but are actually becoming more and more a high need for institutions, for academia, to look at what will allow our young graduates to be comfortable and confident to operate in a virtual and a remote environment, because it requires, again, different sets of skills to get things done. Okay? So I would like now to pause and ask the question, how ready are our young graduates who are entering the labor market today? As I spoke about those drivers, the changes that are happening, how ready are they truly? So before I talk any further, I'd like you to meet Pai. East-West Seed has invested on an early talent development program. We call it Agile Talent Program. We searched from all over the world for young talents, fresh university graduates who can be part of this program. The idea was to pick them fresh from the university, and you're familiar with this program because you have it also in the Philippines, but this is our global program. And we wanted to give them rotational assignments, and later on, we want to be able to grow these young talents to become the future business leaders, the agile business leaders of East-West Seed. So allow me to introduce Pai to you as he speaks about his own experience, his own insights from being a fresh university graduate and now being part of an early talent development program. He is Thai, but note that his insights could be as applicable and as relevant for our Philippine young talents as well. So let me run this. Jean, let me know if it is working well from your end. Okay, I'll play it now.
Okay, ma'am.
Hello, everyone.
It's playing, ma'am.
I'm one of the HR talents here at East-West Seed. I graduated with an engineering degree. Right after graduation, I joined the company and found my passion in supply chain. They had asked me to share some of my experience on things I see as differences between being in a workforce and an academia, and also some of my inputs on what I think academia can better prepare the students before entering the workforce. One of the first things I learned is that it's not about being 100% accurate, but it's about getting stuff done. While we were in the university, we were taught to provide the most precise answers on assignments, on exams. However, while you are actually working, you don't need to be 0.01% precise on everything that you do. In fact, there's not going to be that amount of data available for you. You just have to work with what you got and be able to deliver. Also, you can't deny that you're going to have to work with other people a lot. And no matter how smart you are, it's not about being right. It's about being able to get things done. Are you able to get people on board on what you do? What collaboration you need from them? As an engineer, I was trained to always be right about my calculations. But here, people are not going to be on board with you if you're not able to explain yourself and go through all the disagreements to convince them to reach a consensus. The third thing is that in university, we were always taught to work on existing processes. Entering the workforce with that mindset, we tend to follow what is already in place. But the important thing here is that Do we take our time to just step back, think beyond what's already there, challenge for improvement? This will not only improve businesses, but will also help you grow as a person. And what I believe academia can do more to prepare students for the workforce is to add more real-world related projects while giving them very little information, letting them find their ways through ambiguity, encouraging them to listen to others and learn to agree on things, challenging them to expand their own thinking and challenge the system. Thank you.
All right, so that's Pai for you. I hope you were able to note some of the things that he mentioned, which are important. So let me move on now to my next, to my text. This is what future-ready workforce is for us. Okay, for most organizations, and if you interact with people from HR in other companies, probably you will hear the same. The future-ready workforce, the future-ready talents are the agile talents. Okay, and that is also the reason why we use that as our branding for our early talent development. Apologies on the typo error below, but I am lifting this from our Korn Ferry, okay, leadership architecture, which is our framework for understanding competencies in an organization. And we look at business leaders, and they focused on thought, results, people, and self. Let me tell you, we'll try to make it very simple, okay, and I will try to make it more practical for everybody. So agility is something that we tried to look in terms of these four areas or the four pillars of the leadership architecture. So let me start by sharing my insights or views on agility in thought. So it's about looking at the ability of our young talents today or the young graduates today in thinking critically through issues that they find in the workplace. So are they able to bring that that ability to look at problems, really understand and analyze what is causing that issue, what's driving that situation, and being able to look at different aspects of a situation to be able to come up with a recommendation. We're looking at the capability of the young talents, of the young graduates to expand their thinking. And Pai spoke about that. Are you able to challenge what you're seeing? Are you able to even use your creativity, your imagination to see beyond what you are seeing today? So that's agility in thought. So how are we preparing our university students to be able to, to form that, to be able to develop that? Agility in results is the ability of people, of the young talents, to be able to figure it out on their own how they will approach tasks. Most of the time, especially in an agile organization where you are working so fast, there's no time for people, for your managers, for your team leaders to tell you what needs to be done. Figure it out on your own. Learn how to be able to connect the dots on your own. And that is so ambiguous, and that is so uncomfortable for young people, because probably they were not taught like that, to think like that, and to behave like that previously. And yet we expect them to be able to deliver results in such a short span of time, okay? So agility in people, we work in a virtual mode right now. We work in a very global environment right now. Are young people able to work with others? And by working with others, it's being able to understand the individual uniqueness of the working styles, being able to respect that people really come with their unique talents and their unique views, their unique opinions, and you need to be comfortable with that diversity. And how are they able to communicate with each other? I'm not talking about fluency, okay, in the English communication, but being able to deliver your messages across. We teach people to think on their feet and be able to also respond effectively, to be able to deliver their messages in a span of short time so that you can get decisions made as quickly as you can. Agility in self. Are we teaching our young students, do they have the capability to also reflect, to assess themselves, to be able to understand, okay, how am I learning? What did I learn? In hindsight, what could I have done? And how do I bring that reflections and insights to make me better in the future? Do they have the ability to also understand what are their gaps, their limitations? Do they have the potential to see where they can grow? Okay? And are they taking accountability for their own development versus being told what to do, but themselves taking ownership of where they need to step up, they need to improve, and how are they going to fill that gap? Okay, so the question is, can these young people, can these young talents, our graduating students be molded to become agile? The answer is yes. It's a big yes. So I think where I would like to be able to pose a challenge to all of you, because you are the ones who have that influence in your own respective institutions, is can we reimagine learning? What are we looking for in terms of how we redesign the curriculum? How do we rethink the classroom, the lectures that are happening? Treat it like a live laboratory. What kind of experiments allow them to be able to learn, really learn? So my question to all of you would be that as you move into your next topic, what learning experiences and environment are you able to now create? What that will generate talents for the future, who young graduates who are fit for purpose, fit for their jobs, who can join us, not only for the requirements of the businesses today and beyond, because we need them to be successful. As we said, they're important for the future progress of our economy, okay? And we need them to be ready, not only for the new normal which has happened even before COVID, but even beyond for the next normal.